Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I hope you had a good weekend. Okay, so let's chant the prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namaha Pankajanabhaya Namaha Pankajamaline Namaha Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangrehe Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-salakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Desatarini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Shadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome you all once again. I hope and pray that everyone is keeping well and back in India as well. Only thing we can do is actually pray. Okay, so let's discuss. So we'll continue our discussion from Canto 11 and we'll start today chapter 28, where we are seeing that Krishna is actually giving instructions to Uddhava. In fact, Krishna is trying to give instructions to all of us through Uddhava. So earlier, as we have discussed, Krishna is have instructed to all this mankind through Bhagavad Gita or via Arjuna, and now in Srimad Bhagavatam in 11th canto, he is instructing to every one of us through Uddhava. So there are a couple of more chapters, maybe two more chapters actually, where Krishna is going to conclude his teachings to Uddhava, and he's giving his final instructions to Uddhava, and then after that Uddhava he was going to instruct Uddhava that what to do next, and we'll see it. So chapter 27, it says Lord Krishna's instructions on the process of deity worship. So now Lord Krishna is actually going to teach us about the process of kriyā-yoga, that's called deity worship, because by worshipping deity we get attached to him, right? So while you are hearing this Prabhupada lecture the other day, Prabhupada, he was saying that when we decorate the deities nicely, we get the reflection into wells, isn't it? In a similar way, the deity process, deity worship is very good to get attached to Lord Krishna. So Sri Uddhava, he asked a question. He says, what is the process and qualification for deity worship? And what is the basis and what is specific method for deity worship? So please let me know about this process, qualification, basis, and specific methods of deity worship. And he says that deity worship is again coming from you through disciplic succession. You instructed to Brahma, and from there all this lineage comes up. So deity worship is again a bona fide way of worshipping Lord. So please instruct me about that. And Lord Krishna says, yes, I'll tell you, but he started by saying that there is no end to the Vedic prescriptions for and that way. So Krishna says, I'll explain you briefly. And Krishna started explaining it. He says, Hare Krishna. Okay. He says there are three ways to worship. He says one is Vedic, Tantric, and mixed. So he explained a bit on that. He says, like the Brahmanas who are twice born, they worship by offering appropriate paraphernalia in loving devotion to my deity form, and they clean their body, they fix the mind on me, they chant Gayatri, and so on, and basically they purify themselves, and then they fix themselves, their mind on me, and they offer all the paraphernalia they could. And Krishna explained that the deity form of the Lord is said to be appear in 8 varieties. So there are 8 different forms. Very, very interesting point here. It's in deity worship comes here that Krishna, he himself manifested in the form of matter before us, so that we can worship him, we can have a devotion towards him, we can have an interaction from him with him, right? Maybe I think long back I was hearing a lecture. It was by I think his guest, I think it was from Amranda Prabhu. He was saying a very nice pastime about one of the family, one of the Mataji. Actually, she has Gaur Nitai in her house, and so she do not go anywhere leaving Gaur Nitai at home. Even if anyone invites her in a festival or in a marriage ceremony, she would carry, either she would deny that, okay, no, I have Gaur Nitai, I can't leave Gaur Nitai at home alone, so I can't go, or she would take Gaur Nitai with them. And there is so many pastimes over there, and she could feel the devotion towards Gaur Nitai in that way. So there are lots and lots pastimes. A devotee, when get attached to the worshipping Lord, they actually they talk with them. When you sit down in front of deities, Prabhupada says, it's not that, when we see the deity, it's not just seeing and just going away. We should see very, 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 very clearly, very, very, very nicely. We can spend time and time to see deities. Like, what like is been described, that what Krishna is wearing nicely. So just try to see all these small things, like how Krishna's face is decorated, what kind of peacock he is wearing, in which place it is, what mukut is, and how the garland is, how his ankle belts, and all the things are there. So we could see that in that way, to the deity in that way. So now Krishna says that there are 8 varieties of deities by which we can worship. What are those? He says Krishna appeared in the form of matter, that are in stone, wood, metal, earth, paint, sand, mind, and jewels. So these are the 8 varieties where deities appear. So there are differences between ideal and deity. So when we say deity worship, basically there goes a proper ceremony where, by chanting the Vedic mantras, by veding deities very nicely, and doing yajna, fire sacrifice, the Brahmana deity invite the deities within these matters, maybe stone, wood, metal, wherever it is, right? And in that way, after that, it's called as prana pratishtha. So the deity comes in that matter, and then after that he becomes God to us, he becomes Krishna to us, and then we start worshipping him. So very nicely, the very, very lively example you can see as Jagannath. So Lord Jagannath Puri, many of us doesn't know as well that there is a prana within this Jagannath, and when the deity changes, the wood changes, the prana pratishtha comes back to that. This is called in Navakalevar ceremony of that. That's again detailed things, but that's the way deities are there in this matter, stone, wood, and others, right? So we can't think these as just a metal, because they are being properly worshipped and they are properly being chanted, and Krishna comes there because he is so merciful that he accepts to come in this form, in wood form, in a metal form, in earth form, in a paint form, and then we can worship them. There's a nice pastime actually I would like to say. It's from, I think, Mumbai, Sri Radha Ras Vihari temple, I am not wrong. And there the the deity's clothes are being made by one of the Muslim, and he actually is stitching the deity's dress from a very long time. And in every Janmashtami, he used to go to temple and he used to measure the deity's size, the wrist, the waist and everything. And then one person asked him, so anyway, no, it's a stone. So what is the point of measuring every time? So the stone doesn't change its size, it's still just standing there. And that person, he replied, I've seen Radha Ras Bihari changing his size. So sometimes he becomes fat, sometimes become thin. So just see this because the devotees are there. The devotees, they with love, they actually worship as Krishna, because Krishna has been installed there. His prana pratishtha has been done, and it's now no more stone. There's no more wood. It's all Krishna himself. That's how Krishna is so merciful that he comes before us in the deity form, and we worship them. Right. So again, that's was a different part. However, related to this topic as well. So then Krishna says there are two type of deity. One is temporary, one is permanent. So temporary, or we can say sometimes we need to invite deities by chanting mantras, and they come, they accept the seat, throne, and then after worshipping by chanting mantras, they actually go back as well. So maybe a small example you can say is while we as a in the temple, brahmanas, when they offer prasadam or bhoga to Lord, they invite, says, okay, idam ashram klim krishnaya nama, oh Krishna, please come and take your seat in front of the bhoga. So in this way they invite, and after offering the food, and then when Krishna accept, then after that, okay, say idam Krishna, so Krishna goes back to his seat. So in this way, this is a small example of temporary, but even in fire sacrifices also temporary deities can be invited by chanting mantras, and after sacrifice the temporary the deities can go. And others is permanent deities, like we see other deities in our home, like maybe Jagannath ji, Gaur Nitaya, Lord Narsingh Dev, and others, Lord Gopal. Especially everywhere we find Lord Gopal in a home, isn't it? So that's why there are two types of deities. And Krishna said that a permanent deity, that means basically when you invite a deity in these 8 forms, stone, wood, metal, earth, and then there we invite Krishna to come there, and after that they doesn't go away, and we start serving them. See, if you see earth, so in the past time of Dhruv Maharaj, Narada Muni instructed him, so now in the jungle you won't find anything, you can just make Narayana in the clay form, and then you can start worshipping him. So he made a clay form, he invited Krishna, and then started worshipping him. So in that way, we can see how the deities can be worshipped. And permanent deities, they once being called, they never be sent back, and they started worshipping from there. And after that, he said the deities should be bathed. So the clay and wood deities are not bathed. So like Jagannath is regularly not being bathed. So yeah, we can bathe Jagannath by in the mirror, and again the clay, otherwise the stone and the metal, the deities can be bathed as well, with very very different kind of ghee, milk, fruit juices, water, in that way, like honey. The liquid things can be used for bathing Krishna or the deity's form. And then he says one should worship me in my deity form by offering the most excellent paraphernalia. So it means what? Yatha Shakti. That means whatever we could offer by excellent, we can do it. So excellency doesn't mean that, okay, I should, worship as it means whatever I can do. A poor person can, even a poor person donating £1 is might be more than someone donating £1,000, because that poor person has just £1, right? So that depends upon the person to person. But Krishna says, as for our energy and as for our will, we could try to do best. That's the basically most excellent way of worshipping Lord, right? And then the Brahmana should, the deity should be bathed. It could be decorated very nicely. And he says, even now Krishna actually, after saying that offerings should be done most excellent paraphernalia, then Krishna says, even very opulent presentations do not satisfy me. What does that mean? Krishna says that he says that if very opulent presentations do not satisfy me if they are offered by non-devotees. So Krishna accept very little. However, if you do it with devotion and love and devotion, Krishna says, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktaya prayashati. If we, with devotion, if we can just give him a small water, leaf, flower, that's enough for him to be pleased. But even if you try to do so many opulent things, but there is no devotion in the heart, there is no sense, or Krishna doesn't accept it. And then Krishna says, I am pleased by any insignificant offering made by my loving devotees. So we can do opulently without devotion, there is no use. We can do very insignificantly, very, very small way, whatever we could, but with love and devotion, Krishna accepted. And I am certainly most pleased when, however, Krishna says that, I am certainly most pleased when nice presentation of fragrant oil, incense, flowers, palatable foods are being offered with love. So if we could do, yes, we should do. However, it's not a condition that we should be doing always opulently. The condition is we should be doing with love and devotion. That's what Krishna says. So Krishna says, worship me in any of this form with devotion. So bathing, dressing, applying scents, oils, giving them flower, putting lamps, and offering food or the bhoga. So this way we can worship Krishna, or in any of his form. And he says, then Brahmana should meditate on my 400 form, and he should sing hymns, prayers, chant loudly. He should dance. He should absorb in me and pay obeisances, and his head by touching at the feet of the deities, and he could honor prasadam after offering the bhoga. And whenever one develops faith in me, in my form as the deity or other bona fide manifestation, one should worship me in that form. So these are 8 different ways where Krishna can appear in matter to us, and then we can worship him with faith. And Krishna says that I certainly exist both within all created being and also separately in my original form. So in all this matter, Krishna present as well. Also, he is present separately in his original form. And since I am the super soul of all. Today I was hearing a lecture from Chaitanya Charitamrita. There was a nice discussion was there, and it's being described that we have an original copy, isn't it, of, let's suppose, our degree, whatever degree you have done, maybe PhD or engineering or medical, whatever. The degree is original, isn't it? However, from that original degree, we can make thousands of photocopy or Xerox copy, but the original remains original. So that's how Krishna says, I am already expanded myself as Paramatma in every living entity. However, I am separately in my original form. That is Krishna's Sham Sundara form, right? And then Krishna says the devotee should more fully establish my deity in by making temples along with beautiful gardens. These gardens should be set aside to provide flowers for the deities, deity worship. And in this way, we see, if you go to Karuna Bhavan as well, in our temple, we have a very big greenhouse where so many flowers are being grown up, and then those flowers are especially for deity worship, right? In that way, we have a very big even tulsi plant greenhouse as well. So that's especially meant for worshipping Kuranita Mahapurushashi. And by this, Krishna explained that these are the way how we can worship. And again, Krishna mentions here about constructing temple. In this context, I could remember one of the talk by, I think it's Amogla Prabhu, and I think nicely said that what the need of making big temples. You know what the point was? He mentioned that when we create a big temple, what happens? Though temple created, that temple remains for many thousands years as well, right? And till that time, so many generation they come and take blessings from the deities of the temple, right? So that's how creating temple is very important and very necessary as well, right? And after that, describing this, Krishna gives about the results of some secondary results of worshipping. He says one who offers the deity gifts by giving a land, market, cities, villages, so that the regularly deity worship and special festivals of the deity may go on continuously, will achieve opulences equal to my own. So facilitate some festivals, or giving a charity as a land, maybe cities or villages, as per our you know uh, as far we could do. That's how Krishna says a devotee will achieve uh, opulent equal to my own. And by installing the deity of the Lord, one becomes king of the entire earth. And by building a temple for the Lord, one becomes ruler of the three worlds. And by worshipping and serving the deity, one goes to the planets of Lord Brahma. And by performing all the three of these activities, one achieves transcendental form like my own. So these are secondary results. And Krishna, concluding this chapter, he says, but one who simply engages in devotional service with no consideration of fruitive activities, he attains me. Right. So if you see at every time in whole Srimad Bhagavatam, after describing either Jnāna-yoga or Ashtanga-yoga or whatever, all the yogas and all this process, at the end, conclusion comes to the devotional service. And Krishna again says here that one who simply engages in devotional service with no consideration of fruitive results, he attains me. So though if we have a desire, then we can get towards higher planet or get opulent, maybe a famous personality or kind of that by worshipping it. But Krishna says that's again are temporary to this body, right? But the real thing is that attaining Krishna's loka, going to Krishna's abode, or worshipping him in devotional service. And we have discussed many times that even the higher devotees, the pure devotees, they do not aspire for any kind of liberation from the five liberation as well. They always wish to serve Krishna in whatever condition they are, right? And that's how chapter 27 is completed. We will continue chapter 28. 28 is Jnāna-yoga. Now Krishna briefly summarizes the process of Jnāna-yoga, and actually this already has been discussed previously in a detail. So Krishna says that one should, so what are the jnana? He says one should neither praise nor criticize the conditioned nature and activities of other person. So Krishna is teaching us that we should not be judging. Basically, we say you should not be judging any other person's condition. So we might say it's very nice point actually to just for us, that we might say, okay, as we have gone through this teaching of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, we know that everyone suffers because of his own karma. So is it good to say someone who is suffering that, okay, you are suffering out of your karma and let's not bother anything of that? So Krishna says, no, this is not the good way. And devotees explained very nicely that whenever it comes for our own self, that why I am suffering, then I could I should conclude like, yes, it's because of my past karma I am suffering. But when it comes to other, we should be always eager to serve or to help the other person, not judge the other person that, okay, you are, because of your karma, you are getting this and this. No, we don't need to judge. We are not supposed to judge. And Krishna here says that one should not criticize the conditioned nature and activities of other persons. So, right. So that's the understanding that whenever we suffer for our own self, we should understand that, yes, oh Krishna, it was my past karma. That's why I'm suffering. So please help me out to cross it. And when it comes to other person, we should try to help it. As a, for example, if you see someone poor and who is need of some food, just for example, we could serve him by giving some prasadam or food to him, rather than saying that, okay, let you suffer because of your karma, right? That's what Krishna is trying to mention here. And Krishna says, rather, one should see these are combination of material nature and soul. So these, whatever happening is basically is because of these three modes, and soul is interacted with these three modes. And Krishna says the super soul alone is the ultimate controller and the creator of this whole world. I missed one point here. He says, Krishna says, although shadows, echoes, and mirages are mere reflection of real substance, they create strong emotions in persons, falsely accepting them as real. So the shadows is not real. The echoes, what we hear, that's not real. Even the mirage are not real. These are reflections of real substances. In the same manner, a conditioned soul is seized by such emotions as fear, lust, anger, and hope because of his illusionary perception of himself as material body, mind, and false ego. So our real nature is not this. We the real nature of the soul is never fear, neither lusty nor anger. The real nature of the soul is Jivara Swarupa hai Nitya Krishna Das. So that real nature of the soul is to become the servant of Krishna. That's the real nature of soul, right? And then, however, as we are entangled with this material body, we experiences these others emotions as well. And Krishna says the super soul alone is the ultimate controller, and no other entity can be properly ascertained as separate from him. So without super soul, nothing exists, you can say, as right now. So everything is in the super soul, is connected with super soul. And one who understands this, he does not indulge in material criticism or praise. So that's how Krishna is explained that we should not be engaged ourselves in criticizing any other person. And uh, this is basically as Jnāna-yoga. So Krishna says by direct perception, by logical understanding, by scriptural testimony, and by personal realization, one should know that this world has a beginning and an end. So is not the ultimate reality. So we have seen many times that this is not the ultimate reality. Yes, it's real, but not ultimate reality. It's temporary actually. It's not going to be remain all the time. It's temporary. And then Uddhava asks another question. He said, so soul is transcendental and the metal body is dead matter. Then who perceives this metal existence? And to whom then does this experience of metal existence pertain? How it happens? And who is that actually undergoes the experience of metal life? And the spirit soul is inexhaustible. The spirit soul is transcendental. Spirit soul is pure. It's self-luminous and never covered by anything material. Other hand, the metal body is dull and unaware. So how it happens? Who perceives this? Who perceives this metal existence? So Krishna replied here as saying that as long as a living entity identify himself with body, till the time material existence continues. So how this material existence continue? Till the time the jiva means actually we are jiva, but we identify ourselves with as body. Okay, I am this, from this I have this and this. So as long as that identity remains with us as a body, the material existence continues, the birth, death, life cycle continues, and the mentality of lording over material nature. So we are not Lord, isn't it? We are not supreme, but we try to become supreme. We try to control things which is not in our control, and that's how this mentality keeps us in this material existence. And that's how I can explain this. It's like a dream to identify with body. So in undesirable things happens in the dream, but when we get awake from the dream, we are no more confused by the dream which we have seen. So everything becomes clear whenever we got off. Now that was a dream. Nothing is worrying. It's all okay. That's how when some person or when a living entity get knowledge of transcendental knowledge of understanding this the difference between spirit and soul, then actually he has cleared all his doubts. So Krishna says the soul is pure, and he does not experiences any of these lamentation, fear, anger, greed, confusion, hankering, nothing. Neither its birth, neither death. This all happens because of the understanding this jiva as body. And then nicely the what the conclusion, or how can we get rid of this, how to cut this false ego or false identification. Krishna says, with the sword of transcendental knowledge. So how? By sharpening, by worship of a bona fide spiritual master. So when we get this knowledge, and that should be sharpened by worshipping a bona fide spiritual master. How? Through his instructions. So when we accept spiritual master, he gives us bona fide spiritual masters, he gives us instructions, and by that knowledge, it means nicely says chakshudana dilajay janma janma prabhu says. So he gives us the divine eyes to see the real truth, or to see the real identity of us, and to see the relationship between the absolute truth and our own self. And hence Krishna says a sober sage will cut off this false identification and live in this material world free from all material attachment. And the real knowledge is what? Discrimination of the spirit and the soul. And the Lord is only one reality. And Krishna says about the gold. The gold remains earlier as well, but after getting the gold, we can make it in an ornament. But again, the gold was existing earlier. So this all existence happens because everything was earlier. And then Krishna says that what's not true self? What is not true? This material body made of earth is not true. Is not true self. Nor the senses, neither the presiding deities or demigods, or the air of life, nor is the external air, water, fire, or one's mind. And all these are simply matter. And similarly, neither one's intelligence, material consciousness, nor ego, nor the elements of ether, earth, or the sense perception, nor even the primal state of material equilibrium can be considered the actual identity of the soul. So Krishna gives an example again that sky displays the various qualities of air, fire, water, earth that passes through it. Yet the sky is never entangled with any of these qualities. The sky, we see the sky. That's a very nice example. The clouds goes, we say, okay, the sky is covered now. But actually, sky is clear. But the only thing is that the some cloud has came in between. Right. So Krishna said that example is, he says that that's how the supreme absolute truth is never entangled up with any of the contamination of either goodness, passion, or ignorance. So what is the solution now? How can we go over there? Krishna says that uh, nevertheless, until by firmly practicing devotional service unto me, one has completely eliminated from his mind all contamination of material passion, one must very carefully avoid associating with the material modes which are produced by my illusory energy. So again, in the previous chapter, we have seen where Krishna explains about the three modes, and there also is being said very nicely that we should try and introspect our activity, how we are dealing with these three modes. Right. And then Krishna says, another example, he says, just as an improperly treated disease recurs and gives repeated distress to the patient, the mind that is not completely purified of its perverted tendencies will remain attached to material things. So the mind is one we need to be checking regularly. And this mind repeatedly torment the imperfect yogi. So a wise man understands that the body is acting according to its own nature. And Krishna gives another example. He says, when sun rises, it destroys the darkness covering so that we can see the objects. Right. So the object is actually present there, isn't it? Just sun dispels the darkness so that we can see the object. So actually, sun does not create the object. Object was already there. What he did, he just done that the darkness was covering that object is being dispelled. So object was present there, just is destroy the darkness. Similarly, a potent and factual realization of Krishna or potent understanding of Krishna will destroy the darkness covering a person's true consciousness. So our consciousness, a real consciousness, actually being covered by the identification of ourself with this body. And hence, whatever apparently duality is perceived in the self is simply the confusion of the mind. Because the mind thinks as a body, so that's the confusion over there. And that's what Krishna says, that as sun dispels the darkness and the object become clear, so by the proper knowledge, we can understand Krishna. And Krishna, he says nicely, the example, he says, these inauspicious disturbances can be gradually removed. So how can we remove this imperfect knowledge or understanding or misidentification of ourselves with this mode or with the metal body? Krishna says these inauspicious disturbances can be gradually removed by constant remembrance of Lord Krishna. How? By congregational hearing and chanting of my holy names. Nama Sankirtana Adibhi. Krishna says Nama Sankirtana Adibhi. Nama, chanting the holy name. Sankirtana is basically whatever you're doing right now, that's also Sankirtana. So chanting the holy name in a group. So Nama Sankirtana Adibhi. Adibhi means others, like reciting the slokas, understanding the Srimad Bhagavatam, understanding Bhagavad Gita, reciting to others, glorifying to Lord. These are comes between this. So this Navada Bhakti, the important first two part is hearing and chanting. So Krishna again here says that by constant remembrance of me, these all inauspicious disturbances can be removed. And how that can be done? By hearing and chanting of my holy name, or by following in the footstep of the great masters of yoga. So the great acharyas, basically, we can say the great acharyas, by following their footstep, not imitating them, by following their footstep, chanting the holy name, hearing the holy name, glorifying Krishna's form, pastimes, beauty. In this way, remembering Krishna constantly, these inauspicious things will gradually be removed. And here in the purport, Bhagavad says that according to Srila Sridhar Swami, by meditation on the Supreme Lord, one can overcome lust and other mental disturbances. And by following in the footsteps of great transcendentalists, one can overcome hypocrisy, false pride, and other types of mental imbalance. So that's how Sridhar Swami, he mentioned about that, how by meditating on Krishna or thinking on Krishna, the lust for the enjoying this material world goes away. And by following this great acharyas, the other anarthas, hypocrisy, false pride, and even mental imbalances goes away. Today I was hearing a lecture, nice lecture. It was said that from the past 1 year, we have been packed at home, and many people are so much distressed that they don't know what to do at home, living there, what to do, because we can't go outside. Sense enjoyment was, or sense gratifying holidays and there was actually every now and then, but now from a year we are all packed at home. So the frustration is, what shall I do? But the devotees who are engaged in this process of self-realization, they know they have got a good time to go more deeper understanding this, and they know very well how to use the class. So then Krishna concludes his chapters saying that anyone who takes shelter of me remains free from hankering, and hence he experiences the highest or higher pleasure or happiness. Right? So that's how we'll end today here. Any questions or any thoughts? So we have more 2 or 3 chapters for this canto, and it's completely okay. So there is a question. It says, can you please explain a bit more on difference between spirit and soul? Prabhu, spirit and soul are actually, you can say, as one thing. So the difference is between the difference is between soul and matter, or spirit and matter. So spirit and soul is kind of one thing, but the difference, when we can say as soul and super soul, there comes the difference. The soul is we living entity, and super soul is Lord Krishna, Paramatma. Is that what your question, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji, but I was a bit confused. Like, sometimes in material world we say spirit, but in spiritual language or discussion we say soul. So a bit
Yeah.
confused.
So yes, sometimes people refer spirit as ghosts. So that's another context. But in the context when we discuss, we say spirit. So that's basically the living entity or the soul. So yeah, that's it goes side by side actually.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone for joining on the Monday, and we'll see you all tomorrow, and hopefully maybe in a couple of days we can go on to next things. Thank you everyone. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की,
Jai.
श्रील प्रभुपाद की,
Jai.
अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की।
Jai.
हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.